You get me going, you keep me moving. You got me on my way with what you're doing. You get me going.
So we're a few months away from the start of the 14th edition of the Ocean Race. So we thought we would come down to Lorient. And we've got 5 of our IMOCA teams competing right now on the water. And everybody is waiting to see who's built the fast boat, who knows how to sail it, and who's got work to do. Hopefully, when these teams get back ashore, we're going to get a chance for a closer look. There's a reason why this is the place where you find 5 of our IMOCA teams lining up to do the next Ocean Race. This is Le Bas, Lorient. This is the place that is steeped in history with a deep connection to the Ocean Race as well. This is where you can find Frank Camas, the person who, of course, world famous for all his exploits in speed and ocean sailing, but won the race back with Groupama in 2011-12. It's also where you can find Eric Tabarly.
Eric Tabarly, the greatest name in French yachting, takes the tiller himself.
This is Penduic 6. This was the boat that was built 1973 for that very first Whitbread race. It actually did the race twice, and it did the race with a depleted uranium keel that was outside the rules, but just pushing the bounds of what people thought were possible in terms of materials and designs and everything. And I mean, we're here in this shed in Le Bas, just 4 or 5 meters from Team Malezia's base, where they built and launched their state-of-the-art carbon fiber foiling IMOCA 60. So you've got the very beginning of the Whitbread, of the Ocean Race, and you've got what the Ocean Race is now. But it did take an awfully long time to get from this to that. Nowadays, the steps, the leaps, they go by in a blink of an eye. So this is what the boats of today look like. So we've got 5 of the IMOCAs that are going to be racing in the 14th edition of the Ocean Race. 3 of them are over here on this pontoon. We've got Biotherm, we've got Team Malizia, we've got 11th Hour Racing Team. So here is Biotherm. This is Paul Meillard's boat. It's made in Italy. It's a Verdier design. Biotherm, it's been made for 2 races. We've got the Ocean Race, we've got the Vendée Globe, and it's going to be racing fully crewed, but it's also going to be raced solo. So it's kind of got a foot in either camp, trying to make both of those things work. This is one of the few boats that is of the newer generation that is open at the back. Everything is being done from the safety of the cockpit. These boats are designed to be handled from indoors. And then probably the other big thing to point out here and compare with the whole fleet is the shape of this hull. It's a bit of a simplification, but if you're designing a boat to go around the world, the first question you're going to ask yourself is, am I going upwind or am I going downwind? And for this course, for this edition of the Ocean Race, and certainly for the Vendée Globe, on the average, you're going downwind. And that's why we see these boats with really wide, quite flat shapes to be able to surf and plane their way over the waves. The challenge for the IMOCAs, and it's the big thing that these new designs have been doing over this last iteration, is once you get up on those foils, once you start planing, you skim off one wave, you fly off the foils, and you might go nose down. And if you go nose down, well, at best you're going to slow down, at worst you're going to come to a complete stop. So this is why we start to see those bows getting really full and a lot of volume up the front, just to try and increase that chance of the bow coming down, but then coming back up again with a lot of buoyancy. It's a problem that I think, hand on heart, I'm not sure the sailors would say they've completely solved. The foil is right here. It's just sticking over the pontoon. To design, to build, to install one of these foils, you're talking about 6 months. So everything in here has been decided. There's a purpose for it here. And if you look at the back here, you've got the water coming in over this front edge, that shape critical, that middle section where the flow is really generating all the power, and then that exit point as it comes off. That little fine edge there, you want to make that as small as possible, but too thin, it's just going to snap. too big and you're going to get horrible exit off the foils, you're going to get so much drag. But if you take a look at it from this angle, you think it's just an aircraft wing. There's actually a lovely little twist in that shape. And all the teams have been going through iterations of foils, if they can afford it, if they have time. But they'll tweak the design as they go and as they go, trying to find that perfect shape that's going to work well in the windy stuff, give them that lift, it's going to give them that righting moment. But in the light winds, it's not going to be the big penalty. If you can solve that, you're off on a winner. So we've got two boats here next to each other with Biotherm and then Team Milizia. Just look at the bows and just look at the difference between the two boats. At one point, it's just a simple bow shape and it's there to sort of drive the boat through the water. But there's a lot of differences between the two. You've got a much harder, certainly from my eye, much harder chine, edge on the bow of Biotherm to try and kind of direct that spray and maybe just with that force, help lift the boat a little bit. They're definitely trying to push as much volume into that front as possible. And I think it's a common feature for all of the IMOCA 60s from this latest generation. For anybody that was following the race in 17-18, Will Harris was one of the race experts, and he traded that ticket in, and now, you know, on board with Team Milizia. What is that?
This is how you steer the boat. Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
really? So this is your tiller on board the boat?
Yeah, yeah.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, so great thing about our tiller system is obviously you've noticed the cockpit's inside. So a lot of the controls is inside, and what we can do is we can remove this tiller and connect it inside, and then we have a steering seat from inside the boat as well. And so after the start line, after we've done the start where you need to be looking out and things like this, we move everything inside, and you know, you're in your little cave downstairs where you can really fine tune the boat and really be pushing it to 100% 24/7.
You've thought about every single square centimetre of space being covered with the solar panel. How hot does it get inside? How humid does it get inside? Is condensation a problem for you?
Condensation in the windows has been a little bit of a problem. The panels are heating up to 100, 120 degrees sometimes. There's a bit of insulation from the composite. You know, imagine 4 or 5 people on board the boat, fairly enclosed space. And when you get a lot of rain or something, you really get the windows. You know, it's just like when you step in your car on a rainy day, they do start to steam up. So we'll have to work that out. Maybe have a little squeegee or something for the windows.
Will Harris very kindly showing us around. So let's take a look here at 11th Hour Racing. This boat is, I think I'm right in saying this is the only IMOCA, sorry Charlie, this is the only IMOCA that has been built solely for the Ocean Race. So we've got a concave deck here on 11th Hour Racing team. Different from Team Milizia, we've got very vertical sided hull all the way around. So it's kind of max beam in that kind of working area. You've got the windows for the cockpit right the way back. And these are small differences, but they add up when you compare to the other fleet. Take a look at the shape of the bow here for 11th Hour Racing. You'd almost imagine this boat, if you drew it on a piece of paper, you'd look at it and you think, oh no, I've got it upside down. That peel away from the working area of the deck, it's a different take on that problem of volume in the front, lift in the front when you're going downwind into those waves, keeping the spray off, and yet fitting to the rules and making sure everything's all right. So a different approach, and we'll have to see. They've got a new set of foils coming for 11th Hour Racing. They went through 4 foils, I think it was, on 11th Hour Racing 1, their old boat, and the new foil coming will be their second. So sort of 6 designs in total. The foils are becoming similar across the fleet. I think we're getting to a point where people have decided we know what works. One of the things that's interesting here is just how open everything is at Le Bas. You can come down to the pontoon and people do. I mean, it's busy. Everyone's just coming down here to just take a look at the boats. Kevin Escoffier is a sailor who has already won the Ocean Race, run with Dongfeng on the last edition. And he was telling me that back when he was a young sailor, his big dream, the races that really inspired him was the Ocean Race, and it was the Route du Rhum. And now he's going to have a season where he gets to do both. Big differences with the boat here is, yes, it's fully enclosed, and we've seen that on 11th Hour Racing, we've seen that on Team Milizia, but the difference for me, just looking at it, is there's nowhere to safely step out. Wherever you step out, you're stepping out onto a very curved deck. You're stepping out to a very low guard wire. you're only going out there if you absolutely need to. Is it possible? Yes. We got time?
Yeah.
This feels really different to some of the other boats that we were on board and we've been taking a look at. It's low, very low, but it's still quite wide. You've got quite a lot of space.
Yeah, it's wide because I wanted low. It's because you want the center of gravity of the mast and the boat as low as possible.
Yeah.
Also for aerodynamic purpose, we are faster and faster, so the
windage.
aerodynamic, the windage of the boat is more and more important.
Yeah.
And I've got the only part where I'm able to stand up, to fully stand up, it's here.
I wonder, mate.
Yes.
I see.
And the idea was to be able to be, when you are on the pedestal, you know, when you trim a sail, you've got the sail just in front of you. So you're able to see the sail, how you're trimming.
Yeah.
Same thing when you drop a sail. So, and it was a deck layout for single-headed, but it's nice that it will be used as full crew as well.
Something I've just noticed is a bit different in here, and maybe this is my ignorance. But this is not your standard winch.
It's a new generation of winch designed and built by Harken, and they are much lighter than before.
So there's no structure.
Oh, no, there is no structure. Here it's empty under that.
Is that your sleeping? Is that your living?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. It's quite comfortable. And I can see the chart table from here.
You can keep an eye.
Yeah, very easy and quick
to
go outside.
Yeah.
And since it's moving a bit,
And
you may put some stuff here in order not to move at all.
Keep you in.
Yes.
You seem to be the only boat that I have seen so far with a proper nav table.
I like it, and it's also very easy to see the screen from outside.
Yes.
So there is plenty of boats you may have seen that have a screen outside, but it's also electricity consumption and weight as well. So for me, it's very easy to see from here. You've got the radar here. You may have an iPad on port if you want to do the weather forecast with two screens.
You can have your cameras or whatever you all linked up.
Exactly.
So you really
All
can
outside,
be
all inside.
one place,
Exactly.
see everything. It's amazing how it seems like the philosophy is it has to be so simple because it will break.
Simple is reliable as well. I think.
Exactly.
And it looks easy to do simple, but the hardest, I think, when you design something, it's to be able to do it simple.
There is a rule with the IMOCA class about how high, there's a rule for everything, but there's a rule about how high you can put your stanchions and where you've got to put your guard wire. You have to have guard wires and they have to be a particular height. I don't think they need to be as high as the guard wires that there are on this boat. And we were looking at some of the other ones and they're much lower. And I wonder whether that shows us that this team, with the configuration on this boat, they're going to spend a bit more time outside. I'm wondering here whether we're going to see a bit more action on deck. Certainly the visibility on this boat, just from the outset, it doesn't look quite so good. I mean, that tiny window poking out from the side of the cockpit enclosure isn't very big. There is a window, flat window on the front there. I can't believe that's going to take much in terms of water to distort your view. If you've been walking around the deck on a lot of boats, one thing that will probably jump out on you is there seems to be a bit missing on the mast step of the IMOCA 60s, and certainly on this one. In fact, from where I'm looking now, I can basically see daylight underneath the mast. And this is because it's a rotating mast, and it looks flimsy, it looks like it's going to break. And the whole thing is kind of held on there by the compression, by the loads from your shrouds going up to the mast, from your forestay going up, from the runners as well. The whole thing's just pulling that mast down. It doesn't look like much, but that single point on the boat is going to be under an awful lot of load. Well, it's really satisfying when you put your face here and you talk, it echoes up the mast. Oh, cool. This is probably the clearest example that we're going to find of the difference in terms of design as the boats, the newer ones, have come out of their sheds. The bow on this boat, that forward line, vertical, on this, the first of the 11th hour racing boats, now Guyot Environment Team Europe, vertical line, whereas on a lot of the other boats, it would really rock back and you'd get that big curve and that big bulbous round shape. This is what we're used to seeing, the scow shape. That's the one that's coming in That's the shape that everyone thinks, the golden goose of speed, that's where they're going to find it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So what have we got there? We've got 5 IMOCAs lining up to do the 14th edition of the Ocean Race, starting in just a few months' time. And what can we tell about who's going to do well? Clearly, some of the boats have been at it for a long time in that fully crewed format. And I mean, at least one of the teams we spoke to sounded pretty confident about what their boat was going to do. And that's going to be a big factor. You can see how some of those bold, some of those brave, courageous, possibly foolhardy decisions have been baked into the boat, and it's going to dictate the way that they sail. Who is going to have solved that problem of the IMOCA nosediving? Who's going to get the balance of crew comfort right? And what compromises have been made between what the designer wants for performance and what the crew need in order to survive all the way around the world. I'm sure it's going to come down to the sailors. They're going to have to understand their boat, and they're going to have to push these boats fast. Who's going to be quickest? It's not clear, but one thing's for certain, all those boats are going to be fast.